Hey folks, Nick here from Another BookTube channel, taking a look at a really interesting piece of comics ephemera. This is a Chicago Comic-Con 1993 program. Neil Gaiman, I guess, was like a guest of honor that year. I don't know the full context around this little ash can comic. What I've gleaned from what I was able to find is that it was Neil Gaiman's idea that he wanted this like comic to be created by a bunch of different creators who would contribute 1 to 3 pages of just like stuff about Neil, like sort of like lighthearted like jabs or true stories, just stuff they want to share, things like that, and it would be in comic form. I'm going to be titling this video something like the Lost Neil Gaiman comic or the Neil Gaiman comic you've never seen before. Because it is pretty, in my opinion, rare to see. It's not hard to find. I know there's a bunch of these on eBay. This edition, the red cover, is limited to 2,500 copies, and it was, as you can see, it was signed by Neil. But there was also just a black and white cover one. I think there was like 10,000 of those that were given out for free. So you can find this, but you don't see it a lot. So I thought it would be fun to look at. Also, the title will be a little bit misleading because Neil Gaiman didn't write this comic. So it's a Neil Gaiman comic in that he is the subject and he didn't actually contribute any of the writing to it, although he does have a little piece of artwork here that you'll see. The first creator is Scott McCloud, who does 17 panels about Neil Gaiman, 9 of which are true. And some of them are, they're pretty like standard stuff. Like they met at in San Diego, and they were thrilled to meet him. But some of them are weirder. Like Neil visited several more times, though one time he brought a ferret named Albert as a gift. Albert and the dogs got along surprisingly well. And this one here, in the lobby the next morning, we found a pair of sunglasses in an ashtray. Small holes had been melted through the lenses. Neil was nowhere to be seen. So definitely playing a little bit with, what actually happened, making Neil seem like a kind of mythic figure. Again, this is 1993. Sandman is, extremely popular, and Neil is still the type of guy who's like, he's wearing like leather jackets. He doesn't go anywhere without sunglasses. His hair's all mussed up. So there's a lot of play like about his look and his appearance throughout this. This comic here is done by, is this Dringenberg? Yes, this is Mike Dringenberg, in which Neil is giving is speaking at an event where the crowd is also just all different Neil Gaimans who are all dressed exactly the same. And he's answering silly questions like, is it true that you and Clive Barker are the same person? He says, oh, no, well, not anymore, not really. Clive started playing with these box things. Ever since then, he's been the one wearing white t-shirts. On the next page, you've got Todd McFarlane, who's a name most people will recognize from Spider-Man and Spawn. I guess this is well before the lawsuit in which Neil sued for the rights to the character he created in Spawn, Angela. This story, and this is funny in retrospect, it's called The True Story Behind Neil's Acceptance to Write Spawn #9. And it's the same panel over and over again. Todd, didn't want to do it 6 times. But it's Todd on the phone telling him, it's the right thing to do. Creators got to stick together. Alan Moore's going to do it. Dave Sim's going to do it. Frank Miller's going to do it. It could get your name out there to more of an audience. You can piss people off with it. And Neil keeps saying, nope, nope, nope. And then Todd tells him, I'll give you $1 million. And then Neil says, I'm in. I would be too for $1 million. This one here is from Karen Berger, who did the writing. The art is by Richard Bruning, I think. This is a funny one. It's her on the phone with Neil. And I'll just read it because it's funny. Oh, really? I didn't know there was a 12th century plumbers guild. That's fascinating, Neil. But we've been on the phone 5 hours now, and I have a lot to Hmm? No, I'm fine, just real big, still have 6 weeks to go. Yeah, that's amazing, Neil, but what do hedgehog mating rituals have to do with Sandman? You're way behind. Oops, Neil, I'll call you back. And then from the phone, Neil says, "What, Karen? Did your water break? How exciting! She was talking to me when it happened. I must call everyone and tell them." And it ends with, "And he did." So that sounds like a very silly story. I'm glad Karen Berger shared that. Next up is Dave Sim, who just tells about how he met up with Neil at a signing that he was doing. Neil hadn't had anything to eat and he was starving. And the person running the event asked Dave if he wanted anything. And he says, "Oh no, I just had a thick, juicy steak smothered in mushrooms with golden brown, crispy French fries and a couple of ice cold pints of draft. I'm stuffed." And Neil did a very slow comedic turn and said, "I'll get you for that." Next up is a story by Colleen Doran. It opens with a little comic of how to spot Neil, or how to spot a Neil, where she's making fun of his haircut, his vampire complexion, and his dark glasses hiding dark circles. You also have a little how to spot a Colleen. Impossible. She keeps changing her hair. And she talks about how she used to have this boyfriend who criticized her weight. And so she starved herself, lost a bunch of weight to satisfy him. And at a convention, she collapsed. She faints one day because she had low blood sugar. And in a really small text behind here, it says, "Ladies, why do we do this stupid shit?" But the paramedics come, and Neil comes and makes light of it. "Oh, Colleen, I'm so sorry you fainted because my fans took all your air." And they talk a little bit more, and Neil talks about how he doesn't like her red hair as much as he likes her blonde hair. And it ends with Colleen saying that she kept her red hair, she dumped her boyfriend, and she gained the weight back. Also, she's been dressing like this since well before Neil came onto the scene, and she threw away her onk. So I guess she does look a lot like Death from Sandman. So next is Rick Veitch's Rare Bit Fiends. If you don't know Rick Veitch's Rare Bit Fiends, it's a comic series he did. It was like a dream journal. It was a comic dream journal where he literally just would draw out dreams that he had. So they were pretty nonsensical and hard to follow. And I'm not even going to read any of this. I'm going to let you look at the drawings and just kind of try to piece it together yourself, because that's really what the Rabbit Fiends comic is kind of all about. Next up is Michael Zulli, and this is incredible. I'm really coming to appreciate Mark Zulli's artwork. This is the totally true, completely false story about 3 days in England with Neil, where Neil forces Michael to walk around for like hours and hours and hours to look at architecture. And then he plans a day in the woods where they have to walk deep into the woods, and they talk about their stories and the art they're going to work on. And Neil plots out a game of you for Sandman while Michael crumbles into charcoal. And it ends with Michael in an insane asylum with a taste for meat pies. They talk about Sweeney Todd also here. I really dig Zulli's artwork. I don't know how to describe this style, but just look at it. It looks nice. This next one is Jill Thompson. She creates a little games page. You have a Neil that you can cut out. You can customize his outfit. Again, playing on his wardrobe. A little Where's Neil? He's there where all of the fans are running. Got a maze to help him reach a delicious coffee and cigarette break. You could draw in whatever you think are behind his sunglasses. An anagram, how many words can you make out of the name Neil Gaiman? Fun stuff. We get an Eddie Campbell one, which is very strange, about two guys who are who are expecting Neil Gaiman to come in. I guess they're planning his dinner and his event, and they're just having this conversation while one of them is giving a gynecological exam. That's something, I guess, that I'm not surprised at all that Eddie Campbell did. The next one, though, is the one I really like, is Stephen Bissett, obviously. This is about him and Neil hanging out, driving one night, and Steve is trying to talk Neil to like leave DC. And Neil says, "Look, I saw an interview with Ice-T the other day, and he said something that basically summed up. It can sum up like this: if a creative person is a whore, then the corporation is the pimp, and never think your pimp loves you. That's when a whore gets hurt. So just get out there and wiggle your little bottom or whatever." That's basically what he said. And Steve tells him, "You're a writer, not a whore, Neil. You're one hell of a writer." And Neil says, "Well, thank you, but I am a whore too, and a very good one at that. I make my living by selling myself." And he talks about how it's not like Tundra, who insists you love them if you work there. DC doesn't love me, and I don't love them, so we work together just fine. Never make the mistake of assuming a corporation, your pimp, loves you. And it ends with Steve making a joke that, "Well then, Neil, your current pimp date raped me." Okay? Really harsh words for DC Comics from Steve Bissette. But I really love his art as well in this. I just love when he plays with a chunky black marker in these just like thick white lines. Steve Bissette's amazing. We've got Mark Buckingham here. In this one, Mark is calling Neil and asking if he's got any work for him. Neil keeps saying no, 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 and then he decides to blackmail him, saying, "I've got video of you disco dancing at a wedding." And it ends with Mark going, "Oh, you've just started work on a new story for me? That's great. I knew you'd see some sense." So fun stuff. This is another one where like he gets to reuse panels, but the face is changing ever so slightly. I really like that. That's a really nice like decompressed storytelling. This one, I'm not familiar with this creator at all. Catherine Ironwood. Rabbit and Tree wait for Miracle Man 24. This is playing on the fact that Neil took over Miracle Man from Alan Moore. He published issue 23, and then from there, it just never came out again. I think it's out now. I think he went back to it, and within the past couple years, he's actually finally published the rest of Miracle Man or something like that. But it's just each month the Tree being like, "Hey, Sandman was good, huh? Sandman was good, huh? Sandman was good, huh?" But the rabbit wants more Miracle Man. And the last strip is Larry Marder, who did Bean World. I'm not familiar with Bean World. I haven't read any of it. And it's just a interesting, different style here. Just talking about how he and Neil met at a convention and they talked about the state of the comics industry. They didn't think they would have a lot in common because of how different that their styles were, but they ended up talking and having a pretty good time. And it also ends with a Larry Marder pinup as well, which I really like. And then the inside back cover, this is a self-portrait by the man himself, Neil himself, which is cool. He's got some artistic talent, Neil, and has like this weird photo stat back cover as well. So yeah, that's the Neil Gaiman Guest of Honor Ash Can from the Chicago Comic-Con 1993. I hope you got a kick out of that. This is definitely one of the neatest items in my collection. I saw it once, and I was like, "Oh, I'm probably never going to see that again." I never knew it existed, so I scooped it up. It's really awesome. There's copies of this on eBay if you really, really want it. Go out and grab it. At least grab the black and white one that doesn't have the signature, because those are going to be cheaper. But yeah, if you happen to have this, let me know what your favorite parts of it are. If you were at the Chicago Comic-Con in 1993 and you saw this event, if you saw Neil, tell me some stories. Let me know. I would love to hear about that. But for now, thank you very much for spending some time with me today. Now it's time to get back to reading.